The human body contains trillions of microorganisms, i.e. bacteria outnumbering human cells by 10 to 1. A 20-ounce bottle of Mountain Dew contains the equivalent of 22 packets of sugar. The pollution in Beijing is so bad they have come up with a term called the Beijing cough. The smallest poisonous frog is only 10 millimeters in length and secretes a toxic poison from its skin as a defense mechanism. Termites are currently being researched by scientists at UConn and Caltech as possible renewable energy sources. They can produce up to half a gallon 2 liters of hydrogen by ingesting a single sheet of paper, making them one of the planet's most efficient bioreactors. Coca-Cola only sold 25 bottles its first year. Today, it sells 1.8 billion bottles a day. When a person lies, they experience an increase in temperature around the nose known as the Pinocchio effect. Henry Ford was the first industrial giant to give his workers both Saturday and Sunday off in hopes that it would encourage more leisure use of vehicles, hence popularizing the concept of the weekend. Clymonia is the excessive desire to stay in bed all day. At the Crocosaurus Cove Aquarium in Australia, there's a popular tourist attraction called the Cage of Death, which allows you to get up close and personal with giant crocodiles. When Charles Darwin first discovered the huge tortoises on the Galapagos Islands, he tried to ride them. According to a study done by McEwen University in Canada, playing video games before bedtime actually gives a person the ability to control their dreams. It also suggests that gamers are more likely to have lucid dreams as opposed to non-gamers. There is a 16-story office building in Osaka, Japan called the Gate Tower Building that has an entire highway that passes through the 5th, 6th and 7th floors of the structure. In 2008, the North Face clothing company sued a clothing company called the South Butt. Most of the dust you'll find in your house will be your dead skin. The largest cave in the world is in Vietnam called the Sun Dune Cave. It's just under 9 kilometers long, and its interior is so big that it has its own clouds and forests. In fact, its ceiling is so high that you can fit an entire 40-story skyscraper inside. Getting hit by lightning heats up your skin to 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit 27,000 degrees Celsius, which is hotter than the surface of the sun. The only bird that can fly backwards is the hummingbird. A study done in 1915 by the Chicago University concluded that the easiest color to see from a distance was the color yellow, hence the most popular taxi color. Reciprocal liking is a psychological term used to describe when you start liking someone after you find out that they like you. It's a phenomenon that reflects the way people feel better about themselves and enjoy the company of those that provide them with positive feelings. Walt Disney holds the record for the most Oscars won by any one person, with a total of 22. When Stephen Hawking was asked what his IQ was, he responded, "I have no idea, but people who boast about their IQ are losers." NASA's robotic spacecraft, Juno, traveled a total distance of 1.74 billion miles to 9 billion km to arrive on the planet Jupiter. It launched from Cape Canaveral on August 5, 2011, and arrived on Jupiter on July 4, 2016. In the 15 and 1,600 seconds, women who were seen gossiping, riotous, or troublesome were made to wear Scold's bridle, also known as branks, as punishment. Disturbingly, it was made of an iron frame that encased the head, and at the front was a bridle or bit, like a horse, that extended into the mouth and held down the tongue with a spiked plate. It literally made it impossible to speak, so it was basically a muzzle for a woman. Sugar gliders are such social creatures that if they're deprived of social interaction, they can actually become depressed and die. The main library at Indiana University sinks over an inch every year because when it was built, engineers failed to take into account the weight of all the books that would occupy the building. It has been estimated that humans use only 10% of their brain. The Colossus of Rhodes, one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, stood for a mere 50 years before it was destroyed by an earthquake. Its ruins stood and attracted visitors for way longer than the original statue, reportedly hundreds of years before it was finally recycled for scrap metal. Charles Darwin and Joseph Hooker started the world's first terraforming project on Ascension Island in 1850. The project has turned an arid volcanic wasteland into a self-sustaining and self-reproducing ecosystem made completely of foreign plants from all over the world. Vulcan Point in the Philippines is an island within a lake on an island within a lake on an island. The Greek explorer Pytheas was the first to encounter the northern Arctic ice caps, the Germanic tribes, the midnight sun, and visited Great Britain in 325 BC. He was also the first person to postulate that the tides were caused by the moon. The national animal of North Korea is the kalima, a mythical winged horse that they made up. Domain names were free until 1995. The U.S. government took the land on which Mt. Rushmore was built from the Sioux Nation and developed Mt. Rushmore on sacred Sioux grounds without any compensation. The U.S. government has offered over $1 billion in compensation, but the Sioux refused to take it, saying the land was never for sale. During World War II, American factory workers produced more than twice their German counterparts and had 4 times the output of Japanese workers, prompting industrialist Donald Douglas to observe, "Here's proof that free men can outproduce slaves." Mike Tyson was arrested 38 times by the time he turned 13. Abraham Lincoln signed legislation that created the Secret Service hours before he was assassinated. In Nevada, public intoxication is not only explicitly legal, but it's illegal for any city or town in Nevada to pass a law making it illegal. Some older or less efficient worker termites will develop backpacks of toxic chemicals that explode when the termite is threatened. They are essentially used as suicide bombers when the colony is being attacked. After French soldier Jean Bernadotte showed kindness to a few Swedish soldiers, he became so popular in Sweden that the Swedes decided to make him their king when a vacancy came up. Despite him never having set foot in Sweden before, the House of Bernadotte rules Sweden to this day. The first human cardiac catheterization was done by Werner Forssmann, who, after failing to get permission from his department chief, anesthetized his arm, inserted a catheter into his vein and threaded it into his heart. He then walked down to the X-ray department and took a picture to prove it. Enzo Ferrari told a man, "You may be able to drive a tractor, but you will never be able to handle a Ferrari properly." The man was so pissed, he vowed to create the perfect car, and his name was Ferruccio Lamborghini. There was a Batman villain named Condiment King, and he was defeated by slipping on his own ketchup. Keanu Reeves has a private cancer foundation to help children's hospitals and cancer research, but he does not attach his name to it. He also has spent over $5 million to help his sister in her fight against leukemia. The population of Ireland still hasn't returned to what it was before the potato famine. In the late 1980s, Iraq began building the largest artillery piece in history, a gun that could have put satellites into orbit and conceivably hit any spot on the planet. However, the mysterious assassination of its Canadian designer and the First Gulf War ended the project. In 1902, Traian Villa, a Romanian engineer, designed his first flying machine, then presented his plan to the Académie des Sciences in Paris in 1903. But was rejected with the comment, "The problem of flight with a machine which weighs more than air cannot be solved, and it is only a dream." Fevers are controlled by the part of the brain called the hypothalamus. The human cerebral cortex has an area of about 2.5 square feet, has 25 billion neurons, is interconnected by over 100,000 kilometers of axons, and receives 300 trillion synapses. 12.5 billion aspirin tablets, gel caps, and caplets are consumed each year in the USA. Worldwide, 120,000 tons of caffeine are consumed each year. 1 child goes blind every minute. An octopus has twice as many nerves in its body than it has in its brain. The word pain comes from the Latin word pena that means punishment or penalty. The world's smallest vertebrate animal with a backbone is the stout infant fish Skindleria brevipinguis.